Sometimes the paintings that have the most impact on us are those that depict familiar scenes from our everyday lives, art that makes us pause to feel and think. Chief proponent of realism, Gustave Courbet, believed that paintings should represent real and existing things. This was the driving force behind realism, one of the most important periods in French art. This was a time of revolution, the time when both the French Revolution and Industrial Revolution spurred dramatic change across the world. The first seeds of realism, also referred to as naturalism, were sown soon after the Revolution of 1848, which included a wave of over 50 countries in Europe and Latin America. The French public's desire for more dramatic reforms manifested in the realist art and literature that would flourish from the 1840s until the 1880s. Realists were the first generation of artists to adopt a highly scientific perspective in their art. Three of the most influential thinkers were Charles Darwin, Karl Marx, and Auguste Comte. Charles Darwin introduced the idea of evolution and survival of the fittest, which came to be considered a justification for the extreme wealth inequality of the time. Karl Marx, whose response to extreme wealth disparity was equal distribution and increased worker rights under communist government. And Auguste Comte stressed the importance of positivism, focusing on understanding the relationship between cause and effect. In early times, religion, mythology, and philosophy were considered the highest truths. But during the mid and late 1880s, more than ever before, the world that people could see, touch, taste, hear, and feel was considered objective truth. The French Royal Academy, whose endorsement was significant for artists during this time, thought that good art should be beautiful, classically inspired, and in line with French morality. Realist artists challenged all these ideas by painting non-idealized, everyday scenes of middle-class and poor people of modern times. These themes were both a response to the over-idealization of the Romanticism and Neoclassicism that came before, and a reflection of new scientific worldview and concern for human rights. Realism brought the issues and lives of the working class to the forefront, painting a gritty picture of the harsh realities, as well as beautiful joys of normal, everyday lives. Realism in painting was an art of changing times. Realists abandoned classicism and romanticism, preferring to create compelling and socially critical pictures based on direct observations of the world around them. Common characteristics of realist art was a rejection of artistic theory rules, a break from religious and mythological themes, minimal idealization, social criticism, and a scientific lens. Realist art aimed to portray people and scenes as they really were. As a leader of the French realist movement, Gustave Courbet used rural and agrarian people from his native region, as well as scenes of nature on a monumental scale. At the Salon of Paris of 1849 and 1850, Courbet's brilliant examples of realist paintings took the nation by storm. In particular, the Stonebreakers and A Burial at Ornans have come to be regarded as groundbreaking paintings that challenged convention and modern perceptions. The Stonebreakers shows the state of poor peasant workers during the Industrial Revolution. It reveals the hardships that miners, farmers, and peasants faced at the hands of factory owners and capitalists. The motionless faces and mellow colors are melancholic, while also informing us about the harsh realities faced by the working class. Courbet's honest, simplistic portrayal of day-to-day imagery was considered by critics as crude and even anti-authoritarian. Another example of Courbet's defiance of conventional art methods and perspectives is Young Woman from the Village, which was exhibited at the Salon of Paris in 1852. The painting featured three young girls, Courbet's sisters, dressed in countrified costumes and representing the rural middle class. They are seen giving money as charity to a poor cowherder. Critics panned this painting, calling it clumsy and tasteless. Despite continuous rejections from critics, Courbet continued undeterred inspiring many fellow artists, notably Jean-François Millet and Honoré Daumier. Like Courbet, Jean-François Millet also faced initial criticism, but gained popularity in the 1860s. He is best known for his depictions of rural life, scenes of peasants at work in particular. Millet left his home in Paris to settle in Barbizon in 1849 in order to live in closer proximity to his rural subjects. His Sheep Shearing Beneath a Tree, in crayon and watercolor, is one of his many artworks on the subject of sheep shearing. One of his most emotional compositions, admired and copied by Van Gogh, is First Steps, depicts a father putting down his tools and stretching his arms out for his child's first steps, while the child's mother carefully guides her movements. Millet's most famous work, The Gleaners, depicts rural poverty through 3 peasant women gleaning grains. Bending over the ground, all 3 women have their eyes fixed firmly downwards. The scene portrays the hardships faced by peasant women, whose job was to go out into the fields at sunset and pick up ears of corn missed by the harvesters. Millet's portrayal was considered anti-authoritarian, but his conservative style was a far cry from Courbet's less restrained technique. Honoré Daumier was a well-known lithographer who had parodied King Louis Philippe in caricatures. Inspired by the Realism movement, Daumier turned to more realistic portrayals later in his career. His The First Class Carriage and The Third Class Carriage portray the socio-economic distinctions of the time through his experiences traveling in different classes of rail coaches. Edouard Manet, another eminent realist, painted people in natural settings, as seen in the landscape of his painting Luncheon on the Grass. Artist John Sargent practiced his own form of realism, depicting human forms and his characteristic glimmers of light, as seen in Madame X. During the same time, the naturalist literature complemented the realist movement, pushing the working class into the realm of art and literature. Flaubert's Madame Bovary, Tolstoy's War and Peace, and Henry James's Portrait of a Lady were all 3 realist works still popular today. At the time, the harsh everyday realities in these novels shocked readers, but they also struck a powerful chord. Realist literature was characterized by simple plots and complex characters, social critique, matter-of-fact style, and a focus on the lives and daily struggles of lower and middle-class characters. Plays like Ibsen's A Dollhouse and Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard and 3 Sisters were influential works in realist theater. The realist movement spawned 2 offshoots, the Barbizon School and the Ashken School. The Barbizon School was comprised of French landscape painters in the town of Barbizon. The Ashken School was in the United States and depicted gritty scenes from city life. Realism would go on to influence the work of young progressive artists and pave the way for Impressionism in the late 1800s.